The views expressed are solely those of the speaker and not necessarily those of Paltalk.com, AVM software, or its advertisers.
News Talk is online. News Talk Online is a production of Paltalk.com, the largest multimedia interactive program on the internet with more than 4 million unique users on demand on iTunes and on YouTube and on my blog, GaryBaumgarten.com, where you're encouraged to post your comments whether you agree with yours truly or not. And thanks to our good friends at CRN Digital Talk Radio, we're syndicated to an additional 12 million households. I am your host, Gary Baumgarten. Welcome to the show. Yes, as you can see, I'm in my expansive corner office here at Paltalk World Headquarters, my little cubicle, because we're having some trouble again with the studio. That's being worked on, and if it's fixed by break time, I'll go take a running leap into the studio. If not, please just bear with the visuals that you see now and maybe some of the background noise that you'll get from our offices. No big deal, of course. Well, you know, when Ed Koch was mayor of this city, New York, he used to walk along the streets and he'd walk up to people randomly and say, "How am I doing?" to get some kind of a feedback from them. He's not been in office yet quite a week, but already Americans are offering, solicited or otherwise, to Barack Obama, the President of the United States, an assessment of the job that he is doing. I would have to say that most Americans, whether they agree with him politically or not, whether they voted for him or not, recognize that it's a very daunting task that faces this president, and they are hoping him well, because after all, if he succeeds, then all of us succeed. And of course, what happens here in the United States affects those of you who are outside the United States as well. But there are some who, for partisan reasons, may not really want President Obama to succeed, including Rush Limbaugh, the conservative radio talk show host, who said last week, quote, "I hope he fails." Well, we want to know what kind of job you think that Barack Obama is doing. Before we hear from you, and I see there are already a lot of people in queue, and I'm happy for that, today I went out on the streets of New York and interviewed a few people, asking them what they believed, how they felt, their observations of the first 6 days of the Obama administration. In this first video, a gentleman I interviewed outside New York City Hall talks about President Obama's plans to close Guantanamo Bay detention facility. Could you roll video 1, please, Boaz?
I know it's very early in his administration, but what kind of a job do you think Obama's done thus far?
Well, from what I've heard, he shut down Guantanamo Bay.
He ordered it.
He ordered that shutdown, right?
Yes.
And so far, I think that's good. I mean, because that's a bad place. I don't like that place personally. I've never been there, but from what I've seen in the movies, from the stories I've heard of it, that's a bad place. Like, I was watching a movie, Escape from Guantanamo Bay. The depiction of that place makes I feel sorry for people over there. I don't care what country you're from. You shouldn't
enjoy that kind of stuff.
You didn't have to endure that kind of stuff. But for those Al-Qaeda people that's in there, take their heads off. Take their heads off. They gotta go. But all those other people, find jobs for them somewhere. But those Al-Qaeda people gotta go. Just gotta go.
So there's a guy who believes in human rights except for anybody who's a member of Al-Qaeda, and then off with their heads. In the second video, a man I interviewed outside the federal courthouse here in New York City says it's too early to judge the new president. The second video, please, Boaz. Thank you.
Obviously very early in his administration. What do you think of the job that the president has done thus far?
Well, I work nights, so I really don't see much news anymore, but what I've heard so far, he's done good with just everything he's trying to do, you know. Just, anything's better than George Bush, so we'll see what happens from here.
He's made more than 500 promises. How many of those do you really expect he's going to be able to keep?
I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens when it happens. You know what I'm saying? You can't judge a guy until he's got 4 years to do it. See what happens when he does it in 4 years. And then we can decide whether to do another term or not, or whatever else. And
in this last interview, This is a gentleman that I interviewed in Chinatown. Today is the first day of the Lunar New Year, the Chinese New Year, so you'll hear a lot of commotion in the background. But he speaks of a desire to prosecute members of the Bush administration. The last video now, please, Boaz. Thank you.
So it's less than a week into his administration, and already people are judging Barack Obama.
Yeah, well, he's already closed Guantanamo Bay, which is a big step forward, and the other CIA detention facilities, black ops sites in other countries, which is, a big step forward from an administration that ignores international law and tortures people, which has been demonstrated throughout centuries to not produce viable information in the first place. So, restoring credibility, no longer committing war crimes, and that's another thing. As far as I know, Eric Holder, the Attorney General, hasn't been confirmed yet, and one of my problems with him is that, as Republicans, including Arlen Specter, pointed out, that he might, as a result of his role in Bill Clinton's administration, be too politicized, which is one of the biggest problems in the Bush administration's Department of Justice. And so I hopefully when he comes into power, he won't be as just pursuing democratic goals, but pursuing American goals. And the other thing is, I hope he prosecutes, sets up an independent prosecutor that is not under the hierarchy of the Obama administration, but a separate, like an independent prosecutor to go after Americans that committed war crimes, including Dick Cheney, including George Bush, including David Addington, and all of the people in the Department of Justice that wrote legal memoranda legalizing torture, etc. So that's,
So you have three points of view. We're not ready for this last video yet, Boaz, that you're playing. Thanks. Anyways, several of those individuals who spoke mentioned the closing of Guantanamo Bay. I just want to share with you some information about Guantanamo Bay and the interrogation techniques that were used there. A guy named Michael Gellis, G-E-L-L-E-S, a psychologist who helped design an interrogation model for terrorist suspects at Guantanamo, says that legal, morally sound interrogations would have worked. Gellis, in an interview with Foreign Policy magazine at foreignpolicy.com, says, and I'm going to quote portions of this article, and by the way, Gellis was a clinical psychologist and for 16 years part of the Naval Criminal Investigative Unit. When Guantanamo opened in 2002, he became one of the first whistleblowers after learning that torture rather than rapport-based tactics were being used on prominent detainees. Since then, Gellis has been an unsilenceable advocate for ensuring that psychologists with proper training and background are part of any future war on terror interrogations. Now, let me quote him from this article. While we have made mistakes, if in fact the end goal was to